Hey everyone, I'm Almar of almarsguides.com, and in this video here I'm going to be talking about Mage IDs in Castlevania Curse of Darkness. So, this is going to be a little bit longer than the other videos because there's a lot of them that we have to go through. So, to get started here, and I'm also going to tell you which one is the best too during this video, so make you watch it in order to learn which one is the best. Hint, hint, it's the one that I was using at the start of the video. Well, technically, for mages, it's a little bit more subjective, but... So, mages. Before we jump in, on the right-hand side, see the little graph that shows you basically their stats, and it has that little red and yellow thing in the middle of it, whatever you would want to call that. This tells you their stat growth when they level up. If they are like Wood Rod, that's their stat growth. Once you change to either a Scissor Rod or a Talon Rod, you can see they have different stat growths. So pay attention to that. So Wood Rod, they get Time Stop, which is when you first get the Mage ID, you have to use Time Stop in order to progress with the main story. So you should be somewhat familiar with that skill already. And then they also learn Lightning Strike. The Wood Rod can learn Lightning Strike, and Lightning Strike is one of the top 3 Mage ID skills in the game. It stays phenomenally good throughout the entire game, and it's better than most of the other skills you get from all of these other like bottom tier Mage IDs. So Scissor Rod is the next one, and he learns Floating Bee and Sorcery Flame. So all of these skills that have B at the end suck. You can just, I'm not going to spend much time explaining them aside from here. They all suck. Sorcery Flame is okay. It's if you're fighting fast enemies, it's not very accurate. Think of like the lizard shamans that have like a flame breath, or even like the second wyvern boss that has a flame breath. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a flame breath attack. So it's, it's okay. I'd rather use Lightning Strike. Talon Rod, Circle Scissors, and Freeze. So Freeze does exactly what you would assume. It freezes the enemy in place. Circle Scissors, it creates a little aura around Hector that damages enemies with ice when they come into contact with Hector. It's not that good, to be honest. And also, one thing that's worth mentioning before we get too far into this, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, all of these skills say condition defeat a certain number of enemies with the current ID form. What this means is in order to unlock the skill, you need to defeat enemies while using that battle ID. While using that devil, the innocent devil. Unless there's some skills that are different, I will mention it when we get to those skills. But keep that in mind. So moving on to tier 3. So Nautilus Rod, this is one of the best tier 3 mage types, and that is solely because of Purify. So if you remember, there's some enemies in the game called blood skeletons, and you cannot kill them without Purify. Also, Purify works on all undead, but most notably, it works on the blood skeletons because you can't kill them without it. So this is in order to get 100% map completion in the Baljet Mountains, you will need this skill, and also to get to beat the Tower of Evermore, you will also need this skill, because there's blood skeletons in both of those places. So that makes this one of the best Mage IDs. Ogre Rod. Let me check my website because I forget too much of what he does. Synchron Saucer B. I know it sucks, although it is slightly better. Like it's one of the best B skills, but it still sucks. So Agnia, let's see. Oh, I see. Agnia is an okay skill. The only downside of it is a major downside. Your Mage ID has to be facing the enemies for it to work, because I'm pretty sure it's like a frontal cone ability. So you actually have to pay attention to where your Mage ID is, which is something I will not do. I'm too busy focusing on myself and the enemies I'm fighting. I can't pay attention to him too. So for me, the skill sucks. And Synchron Saucer B, if I'm not mistaken, let me read real fast. Yeah. It makes 3 floating saucers around Hector that will deal damage anytime he strikes a foe. So it makes each of your attacks do slightly more damage, which is it's okay, not the best though. So Goat Head, Argent B sucks. like all B skills. And Salamander, this is an okay skill. It's okay. Like, that's really all I can say about it. It does decent damage. It has okay accuracy. Like I said, it's just okay. In order to unlock this skill, you have to run around with Hector for 1 hour. Well, it says over an hour, but I'm pretty sure it's just 1 hour. The easiest way to do this is to get like a rubber band and put both of your, wrap it around both of your control sticks so Hector will run in a circle, and then you can just leave him someplace safe for an entire hour. It also helps if you're playing on an emulator like I am, where you can turn on turbo speed. Then you only have to run around for 30 minutes because it's double speed. But yeah, it is it's a skill and it does stuff, is what I would say. So moving on to the final tiers of mages up here. Eyeball Rod. This is one of the lesser ones. Tension Boost, if I'm not mistaken, buffs your attack, which is... it's okay, I guess. Homing, on the other hand, is completely garbage. It essentially sends homing missiles at enemies. And the reason it's complete garbage is because it costs too much hearts, and Lightning Strike is better. That's one reason that all of these skills like Satellite B, Agnia, Argent B, Salamander, Lightning Strike is a very, 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 very good skill. Always hits the enemy, will hit any other enemy around the enemy that you're aiming at, and it costs not many hearts at all. That's why Lightning Strike is amazing. And all these other skills just don't compare. So Embryo Rod. This is what I think is best in slot mage ID. And the reason for that is Explosion Bee sucks. Demonic Disaster is very good. It hits enemies for like 1,100 damage. And I'm pretty sure it does holy damage. So a lot of enemies... It probably hits enemies for like 500 damage, but where I like farm and most enemies in the game are vulnerable to holy damage. I mean, we are fighting like undead and demons and shit like that, so you would assume that they're most vulnerable to holy damage. And it does a lot of damage. The only downside is it takes a few seconds to charge up and then go off and explode. And it has a mediocre amount of range. Aside from that, one of the reasons that I think, or I should say, the main thing worth mentioning is Demonic Disaster is actually not the best final tier mage skill. However, it is the only final tier mage that you can also get Purify on, which is why I think Eyeball Rod is the best. Or sorry, Embryo Rod. Because you need Purify, basically. Otherwise, you have to carry around 2 mages when you go some places, which is just stupid. I would much, much rather 1 mage and just have, Demonic Disaster instead of Meteo. And that brings me to the next skill, to the next one, Crystal Rod. Meteo is arguably the best mage skill available. It is it's one of the 2 best mage skills available. This does a lot of damage, but it deals fire damage, which is the only downside, because some enemies are heavily resistant to fire damage, and there's not too many that are weak to fire damage. Shield does, it blocks a single attack for 20 hearts. So it's not good. It's not good at all. So we're moving on to the final Twinkle Rod. Twinkle Star does it's essentially the same as Meteo, except that it deals holy damage. So it's almost exactly the same as Demonic Disaster. It blows up and deals a decent amount of holy damage. Dancing Star also it creates 3 stars that circle around Hector and deal holy damage to anybody who attacks Hector. So Twinkle Rod, in my opinion, is the best mage in terms of raw attack power. Because of the skills, both deal holy damage. However, you don't get Purify with him, which is a deal breaker for me. I want Purify, so I go up here. I do Wood Rod, and then I do Scissor Rod, and then I do Nautilus Rod, and then I do Embryo Rod. And that is the route I usually go for my mage types, because I want both Purify and Demonic Disaster. But anyway, that is all there is to it. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. Hopefully it answered your questions. If it did, be sure to leave me a like, because that helps me out. And if I got anything wrong, left anything out, or you guys have any additional questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Aside from that, I will catch you guys around in my final Innocent Devil video for Castlevania Curse of Darkness, which we're going to be covering the pumpkins. Anyway, I'll see you guys around in that video. Peace.